Chainsawman Chapter 213 just delivered one of the most heartbreaking gut punches in the entire series. Denji, a boy who started out his story with nothing but Pochita when we meet him, once again forms a real bond. And just as it reaches its most honest and human moment, Fujimoto rips it out in brutal fashion. Yoshida's death, it doesn't just sting because of how sudden it is. It hurts because of how it continues a tragic cycle that's haunted Denji ever since the very beginning. Every person who grows to love him, they die at his side. Today, we're going to be breaking down why Yoshida's farewell in Chapter 213 hits so hard, how it mirrors Denji's past bonds with Aki, Power, and Reze, and what this cruel pattern means for his growth as a character, and why Fujimoto might have just hinted at the fact that this is not the last time Denji will be faced with such an impossible situation. Now, let's be clear. Fujimoto has always made it clear, Chainsawman isn't just about the devils. It's not about the gore. It's not about the absurdist humor. Those are elements of the story, but at its heart, this is really a story about Denji, a boy who began the story with nothing but Pochita, fumbling his way through life as he discovers what it means to connect with people. Chapter 213 is also a brutal reminder of how fragile those bonds are in Fujimoto's world. Denji, who started out without friends, family, or love, he continues to attract people who approach him, and they all have ulterior motives. Yet over time, due to Denji's influence, those same people grow genuinely fond of him, only to be torn away, often in the exact moment when their relationship feels like it's hitting its most sincere and human point. Classic example being Power, and most importantly Reze, who the story might be hinting at the fact that she might be coming back, but we'll touch on that later. So this theme, it is embodied in a very chilling precision when you look at Yoshida's death. For much of part 2, Hirofumi Yoshida has been a shady handler, a babysitter of sorts, that was keeping tabs on Denji. His motives, they were never truly transparent, and readers like Denji himself, they didn't fully trust him, but you kind of wanted to trust him, even after he did all the shady things he did. But in Chapter 213, we see the first and only moment where Yoshida finally lets his mask drop. He doesn't come to bargain or threaten or manipulate. He comes to share a meal and in an awkward way admit that being with Denji, it mattered to him. Then, just as they shake hands and recognize one another as being friends, the building explodes, killing Yoshida. Fujimoto doesn't give us any time to breathe. That bond, it peaks and then it immediately gets cut. And the fact that this is in a school setting and it appears to be raining outside, that's another thing that makes me think that potentially this is Reze coming back. Because in that Bomb Devil arc, we also had the rain, and Reze and Denji were talking about how Denji's never truly been in a school situation. So I do think this is Fujimoto finally potentially giving us what we want. Now, this is also a continuing pattern of bonds being torn apart. As we as readers know, Denji, he has been through this cycle before. His relationship with Aki, it grew from one of competition and hostility into a true brotherhood. Aki started out as the annoyed guardian, but as time passed, he softened into someone who deeply cared for Denji and Power, even finding joy in their chaotic presence. They became part of his everyday life. And just when their bond crystallized into something that looked truly like a family, Aki was turned into the gun fiend and ultimately died at Denji's hands. Power, too, evolved from being a self-serving liar to being Denji's sister in all but blood. She went from exploiting him to being someone who he promised to protect forever, basically. Classic example of how this is said without it actually being said is how when they're taking the bath together after the Darkness Devil arc and you see Denji comforting her, and had that been Denji from way back in the series, that would have been a moment where he'd have been super horny, having Power naked in the bathtub with him, but here, no horny thoughts go through his mind. Her death at the hands of Makima, it was not just the loss of a friend, but it was the loss of arguably the first real sibling bond that Denji had ever truly known. Then when you get into Reze and Himeno, they also fit into this pattern as well. Reze began as a manipulator, but she, in my opinion, genuinely fell for Denji's ridiculous charm, only for her life to be cut short before she could even choose a different path. Himeno, she bonded with Denji in her messy, imperfected way, only to die saving Denji and Aki, leaving Denji to grapple with another loss. Yoshida now joins this long lineup. Like Aki, he was tasked with watching over Denji. He hated it first and slowly found a meaning and a craving for it. In his final moment, apologizing and thanking Denji for all of the memories they had, it mirrors the tragic symmetry of Denji's life. Every bond, it ends in blood so far. This is also why there is a brilliantly written emotional impact for Yoshida's death. So Yoshida's death, it stings as a reader because it feels so sudden, it feels so understated. Yoshida's dead. It's something we all knew was coming at some point, but the fact that it's finally here, I've reread the chapter twice and I still can't believe he's gone. Fujimoto doesn't just build to it with dramatic foreshadowing or drawn out dialogue in this chapter. He doesn't take that approach. Instead, he lulls the reader into a very quiet moment. Two boys who are sharing food in a schoolroom, finally being honest with each other, and it's in that moment where when Denji is reminded of Aki watching him eat, and you see the ghost of old bonds beginning to creep into his life, and you realize that Denji can't even recall the faces of Aki and Power in that flashback that we see. It's our sign like, okay, this is it. Yoshida's about to die. And sure enough, as Yoshida reflects on their shared fights, their messy camaraderie, and how that develops when you survive danger together and survive just the funny moments like when Denji was transforming because some guys pissed him off. Yoshida had to knock him out as a result of that. It's in this quiet where as you finally go, man, when's it gonna happen? The knife finally twists. Just when we're given a glimpse at a different side of Yoshida as being more than public safety's pawn, he's brutally ripped away. The result, it is devastating. Not only for Denji, who has lost yet another person, but this time it happens in the exact second their friendship has transformed from being something duty-bound to being true friendship. It's the cruelest of timing, the purest encapsulation of Fujimoto's theme. Now, in terms of what this means for Denji's growth, it's also there. So the use of repeated trauma, of losing bonds, it has shaped Denji in ways that he barely understands. Each death, it leaves a scar, but it also hardens him against despair. Denji has learned that closeness often ends in pain, yet he continues to reach out anyway. This persistence, it is central to his character. The boy who once lived only for bread and jam now continues to risk his heart despite knowing the inevitable cost. Those who he gets close to, they can and they probably will be taken away from him. Yoshida's death, it pushes this theme even further. Unlike what Aki and Power, Denji did not have potentially years, or not even say years, let's just say several months with Yoshida. Chainsman Part 2 feels like it's happening in a very short window. He only truly realized that Yoshida cared, and that care, it was snatched away. This could teach Denji to distrust people even more, to potentially close himself off, assuming that anyone who reaches will eventually betray or they will just die. But it also could reinforce the opposite lesson, which I think that's where Fujimoto's taken this. The opposite lesson being that the joy of a connection, despite however brief it is worth the pain that you feel when that person's gone. That's how I've always viewed death in Chainsaw Man. Fujimoto, he's leaving tension behind that is unresolved. It's keeping Denji in a suspended place between being self-protective in the form of detachment and also his secret yearning for a family. At the same time, this loss, it also highlights a dark truth. Denji is not just a victim of circumstance, but he is also a catalyst. His existence as Chainsaw Man, it invites violence. Those who draw close to him are often consumed by that cycle of violence that where you have devils and devil conflicts that all surround Denji, as well as just the chaotic nature of Denji himself. Denji didn't cause Yoshida's death directly, but it happened arguably because of him, as did so many before him. Denji carries this guilt even as he continues moving forward. Chapter 213 is one of those chapters where It doesn't dazzle with spectacle, but it devastates with the quiet intimacy in a setting like this. Fujimoto threads together this recurring motif. Denji as a boy who keeps finding family only to lose it at the cruelest moment, and he renews it through Yoshida's unexpected death. The chapter forces readers to sit with the uncomfortable truth that Denji's life, it is a cycle of fleeting bonds, laughter shared in one moment and bloodshed in the next moment. And yet Denji still endures. Despite every loss, he still eats with others. He still makes jokes. He still bonds. He still dreams of love itself. That stubborn, stupid, deeply human persistence is what makes him so magnetic as a main character in the story. The more Fujimoto rips away from him, the more we see the depth of his resilience, even when he doesn't deal with his own trauma. Denji may truly never escape this cycle. His only escape might be death. That might be a lesson we learn at the end. Say if Denji does die, it becomes a situation where the pain is something that is worth all the bonds he got a chance to experience, because so many people go through this life without ever having someone that they can say love them. Denji has had multiple people, even though they've come into this life where they're not necessarily coming with the most honest of intentions, but it is his willingness to keep forming bonds, knowing how fragile they are, that defines him as chainsawman, as does moments like we get where he is thinking about Fumiko being nude on the bed next to him, despite knowing, or in this case, outright forgetting, wasn't even listening to what she said about the fact anyone who has sex with her is basically turned into a Fumiko clone. Or when he's thinking about Lil D, the Death Devil, he's thinking about her naked body, but he completely omits the fact that she has a hole in her chest. God help us if Denji ever meets the horny devil. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking here on the left to check out more videos for Chainsawman, or click here to check out my newest videos from Anime Explained, like the Don and Sakamoto Days videos.